Hi. In this film, I'm going to answer a question that several people have written to us about. Here's the question. What is a secondary dominant? Okay, well, I've written an example of one on the board. Let's unpack it and see what's going on. Here is a piece of music in the key of F major. But just at this point in the music, at the beginning of the second phrase in this case, we've got two chords that take us into B flat major, and then we carry on in F major. So that's the first clue as to what a secondary dominant is about. And basically what we do in a secondary dominant is we go 5-1 or 5-7 to 1, or we can put the 5 in a different inversion like we have here, 5-7B to 1, but some kind of 5-1 or 5-7-1 in a different key, but we don't modulate to this other key, we carry on in the original key. So everything before this secondary dominant is in the key of F major, everything after the secondary dominant is in the key of F major. But for just those two chords, we've gone 5-1 or 5-7 to 1 in a different key and then carried on as if nothing's happened. Okay, what does it actually sound like then? So hopefully you can hear this is an F major. Now, can we hear this 5-7B in B flat major? Or at least can you hear that there's a chord that doesn't belong to the key of F major? That E flat doesn't belong to F major. And then I've gone to that and then carried on. So the basic definition of a secondary dominant is that I'm in a key and temporarily I go 5-1 in a different key and then carry on in the original key as if nothing's happened. But you can't just go 5-1 in any old key, because the 1 in the secondary dominant must also be a chord that belongs to the prevailing key. So let's have a look at this. This is chord 1 in B flat major, or it's a chord of B flat major. So that's B flat, D and F. So it's chord 1, or the tonic chord in B flat major, but this chord is also a chord in the key of F major because it's chord 4 in F major. So when you have a secondary dominant, the 1 of the secondary dominant must be a chord in the prevailing key. Otherwise things don't work so smoothly. I'll give you an example. Say I play this in F major, but I'll give you a secondary dominant in E major, let's say, at the beginning of bar 3. You'll hear what I mean. So here we go. Well, it kind of sticks out, doesn't it? Because that E major thing is no good, because 1 in E major, a chord of E major, is not a chord in the key of F major. So that's not a very subtle secondary dominant, isn't it? So the 1 of the secondary dominant must be a chord in the original key. Now, how do I know then which keys I can go to? Well, I worked through all the chords for F major. So there's chord 1 in F major, or chord of F. Here's chord 2. Now, chord 2 is also chord 1 in G minor. It's a chord of G minor, isn't it? G, B flat, D. So that means that I could, in the key of F major, have a secondary dominant in the key of G minor. So I could be in F major quite happily, and then I could go 5-1 in G minor and then carry on in F major. So chord 2 is good for a secondary dominant. Chord 3 in F major is A, C, E, so that's a chord of A minor, and so chord 1 in A minor, so I could go 5-1 in A minor and then carry on in F major. So chord 2 is good, chord 3 is good. Chord 4 is the one we're using here, so we've already discussed that. Chord 5 would be good, wouldn't it? Because that's a chord of C, so I could be in F major and carry on in F major, and then I could go to 5-1 in C major and then carry on in F major. So chord 5 is good. Chord 6 is good, isn't it? Because chord 6 is chord 1 in D minor. It's a chord of D minor, D, F, A. So I could be in F major. And then at some point I could decide to go 5, 1 in D minor, and then carry on in F major again. So chord 6 is good. Chord 7 won't work because chord 7 is a diminished chord, so it's not a chord 1 in any key. But you can see that there are many possibilities for secondary dominants. Why would I want to use them? Well, if I don't really want to modulate to another key, but I want to add just a little bit of colour to the music, it's a bit like adding a few herbs to your cooking or something. It's just something to increase the flavour, isn't it? Well, this is a kind of sprinkling of herbs in the music, if you like. It's just giving us a little bit of colour. So you can hear how that secondary dominant adds a bit of colour to our phrases in F major. So there we are, secondary dominants.